Start this thought today with a little story about an 85-year-old man sitting on a park bench crying. This passerby comes by and he notices the tears running down the man's cheeks and stops to see if he's okay. And he says, can I be of any help for you? And he said, I don't mean to intrude, but is there anything that I can do? And are you sick? And the 85-year-old man says, no, my doctor says I'm actually as healthy as a 30-year-old. And well, do you need some money or anything like that? And he says, well, no, actually, I have millions. The guy says, wow, well, is it your wife? Is anything wrong at home? And the old man looks up at him and says, no, quite the opposite. He said, everything I have is fine. I have a big, beautiful home and 2 cars, a swimming pool. I even have a 35-year-old wife that thinks I'm fantastic and loves me like a king and cooks for me and everything. So everything there is fine. And the man looks at him and he says, well, why in heaven's name then are you crying? My goodness, look at what you got. The man looks up at him and says, because I can't remember where I live. And I wonder, how many of us are in that same thing, that we can't remember sometimes what it is that we're supposed to be focused on, because I wonder how many of us actually are in that quandary, simply because we've forgotten the things that we needed to remember. I wonder how many of us are actually contemplating, where we are and what it means. It seems that the world today, has succeeded in actually putting God in a box, and that they've defined, God and how we're to relate to Him in a whole different way. And here we have, we've bought into it. Well, let me tell you something right here and now. God is not confined to the limitations of man or what man would say that He is. You cannot make an infinite God into finite. You can't take an eternal God and make Him temporal. You can't make the creator of the earth subject to the geographical areas of the globe. You can't tell God that He can't move in Nigeria at the same time that He's moving in Arkansas, for instance. You see, He's God. He never has been, nor will He ever be subject to the things of this world. People today are, just as they were back in Jesus' time, sometimes the religious men and their desire to control the people have placed so many limitations on God that they don't leave much of a God to believe in, after all, for us to have anymore. In other words, even though He worked miracles, they say He doesn't anymore. Even though He healed in the Bible, they say that isn't real today. Well, hear me on this. God is not God because we give Him permission or room to be God. He is God, period. And we need to realize that. Too many people have forgotten this. Too many people have been swindled into believing in an anti-God, if you will, an idea of a limited or partial and inadequate God. So let me say this. If you're trying to live your life for an inadequate God, let me reintroduce you to Jesus Christ. Because Jesus Christ, the Son of God, whenever He faced the obstacles that He had, that would have beaten any man, Jesus always proved to be the victor. It's time for you to realize that through God you can be the victor and not the victim. It's time for believers to get God out of the box. This is Pastor Riley, and that's just a thought.